Okay, let's take a look at how you to create this Azure database for MySQL instance and then use that to connect to DBeaver. So if you haven't installed already, this is the DBeaver tool that you can download into your system, and you can use that to connect to a variety of databases like MySQL, PostgreSQL, and other cloud databases. So we are already creating this Azure instance of MySQL, right? So first thing we are going to do is go to Azure portal. Make sure that you have at least this free trial, or maybe you can think of getting the pay as you go subscription, right? Because even for testing you would need that post your free trial, right? Now let's go to services, all services for that matter. Now within categories, choose databases and then click on Azure database for MySQL server. Now I already have one instance created for myself, but I want to show you how to even make that one. Now let's click on create. So once you click on create, you will be presented with options like flexible server or creating server with WordPress stack or so. I don't want to do WordPress stack, so I will use flexible server. Some of the options like single server and flexible, out of that single server is no longer available. So we have flexible server to choose from. So we'll click on create so that we get the configurations and options. So left hand side shows the configurations that we have to choose, right hand side shows the total price of whatever that we select, and it will give you cost estimation, right? So let's start with subscription. I have free, can get your pay as you go, then resource group, right? Then we pick the server name, and here you can see whatever we pick will be tested against characters, name availability, and if it contains name, letter, hyphen, etc. So that is being checked. Then comes region, right? So we pick the region and we select what works. Then MySQL version, so 5.7 8.0 are the LTS available. There are also other available versions that you can check in your region. Then comes workload type. Now we are just testing it out, so we'll use for development or hobby projects. Then there is also tier 1 business critical workload, and for small or medium sized database. So these are some of the options that we have for workload. You have to pick one. Then comes compute and storage, where you have your vCore and RAM to choose from. So I will pick the one vCore, 2 GB RAM and storage. So once you select that, you move on to other options like high availability. You enable that or disable based on your compute choice, right? That would reflect in price. You can view that on the right hand side. Then comes authentication, right? So let's see, I have three options: MySQL, Azure Active Directory, and mix of both these two, MySQL and directory authentication. So I just want to pick authentication, where we have username and password. So first option exists for that. So once we select all those configurations, we can review and create. It should create instance that looks like this, right? So we select our instance. Right here you can see the warning that for single server this is not available, so we have flexible server here, right? Here you see the server name and also the login name, these two things along with MySQL version. Now comes the networking part, right? So here you see the firewall IP address that you have to allow and pick or connectivity and save those in settings, right? That should do. Now we also have other options like enabling SSL, etc. You can do that as well. Then come to the point where we have to connect to DBeaver. So what I will do, I will search that on my desktop, open it up, and considering this is Java based, so it will take some time. It will run in the background. Meanwhile, we can take a look at our options, right? So considering we will be needing driver for DBeaver, and it will let us use on its own, so we don't even have to manually do anything. We'll just have to open that application and work with the driver part. Rest of the details for authentication are there, so we will just use this copy to clipboard option and paste it in available parts, right? So let's go to DBeaver. Here it is taking a bit longer, which is expected knowing that this is Java based application. Now you can see it is asking for upgrade, and so now let's go to connect, right? So within connect option you have option for MySQL. There is also other options, and you will find a lot of databases listed which are under support of DBeaver. So we'll choose MySQL here, and it should show you connection setting like this. So we will copy those connection settings from our Azure portal, paste it here, right? Now username is my name here. Now there are no SSL settings that I have enabled. I only have to add the password. Now let me paste it and test the connection. Now once we are in the test mode, here you can see connection using secure transport are prohibited while require secure transport on. Okay. Now what we can do is we will try and test the MySQL connection here. We'll click on test, and there you see our connection test succeeded. Make sure to choose the driver property, use SSL set to true. Just double check it. Some of the time turning on and off helps, and connection is established. Now what we can do, we can click finish, right? Now let's connect and see what we have inside. So it should have one sample database with table named employee. So we can explore that further. So within database you can see sample, then table, and then employee. So let's view the data. Now compared to other programs, here you have different set of options like right click, then view in SQL editor or in search table, right? So apart from that, as you can see, read data in SQL editor is one such option. Here I can execute this command and immediately get the table. Now let's see, I want to insert into this table. So insert into employee, right? But I have to specifically mention sample.employee, and where I have ID, name, salary, and department, right? And then values, and where we have like, let's say I want to add 8th entry, which is for, let's see, Jinx, and then we have some salary, right? And finally department, it's, let's say, management, right? Once we have all of that, we can use semicolon. Now I will just basically run this and see if everything works. Now let's say if I use select all from sample dot employee. Now if we run this query, you can see the entry here. So we can now access MySQL database from cloud. Everything is working, right? So it should give you an idea how to connect to cloud MySQL database from DBeaver.